At 3:07 a.m., my security camera caught Hera's shadowy figure in flip-flops, dragging a garden hose like a thief in the night across my dew-soaked lawn. She glanced over her shoulder twice, crouched behind my rain tank, and twisted valves she had no right to touch. The grainy black and white footage was almost cinematic, but there was no mistaking her. It was Linda, the Maple Grove HOA president, the same woman who'd fined me last month for an unapproved sprinkler head while preaching water conservation to the neighborhood. I wasn't just angry, I was floored. Not because she was stealing my water, but because the hose didn't lead to her house site vanished into the HOA park's soil, snaking toward the entire block. Linda wasn't just robbing me. She was draining our whole community, and no one had a clue. It started 3 weeks earlier with a trickle. My sprinklers failed one morning, and my smart irrigation system, usually flawless, flagged low pressure. My 2,000-gallon backup tank, filled by a recent storm, should have been brimming. Instead, the gauge read 10%. I checked for leaks, ran diagnostics, and scoured error logs. Nothing. The water had vanished. I refilled the tank from the municipal grid, an expensive last resort, and chalked it up to a faulty gauge. 2 days later, it was nearly empty again, barely enough for my flower beds. My wife, Sarah, wondered if kids were pranking us or if an animal had chewed a line. But there were no muddy footprints, no broken seals, just silence and an eerie emptiness. When it happened a third time, with no rain or irrigation to blame, suspicion took root. I installed discrete motion-triggered cameras, disguised as birdhouses, around my tank, side gate, and back fence. I labeled the footage wildlife tracking to avoid questions. My goal was simple: catch whatever or whoever was draining my water. Casually, I asked neighbors about their systems. Several mentioned odd issues: dipping pressure, failing sprinklers, even a gurgling sound under one patio. No one connected the dots, blaming old pipes or summer heat. Then Linda appeared on my driveway, hands on hips, sunglasses gleaming despite the cloudy sky, claiming my tank violated HOA aesthetic standards. I pressed for specifics, but she deflected, hinting my tank might be causing the block's water woes. I played along, offering her a bottled water she declined, insisting she only drank artesian spring water from her fancy flask. As she left, her dachshund, Bubbles, peed on my lawn gnome, and I swear Linda smirked. 2 nights later, the footage came in, Linda, in my backyard, wielding an unfamiliar hose with practiced ease. She knew exactly which valve to open, moving like she'd done it a dozen times. I didn't sleep that night, replaying the clip, tracing the hose's path off-screen toward the HOA park. Dread settled in. This wasn't petty theft, it was something bigger. By dawn, I was digging near my property line, uncovering a hose buried under mulch, feeding into a PVC tunnel under the HOA fence. To avoid suspicion, I staged a fake landscaping project, hiding my trench with tarps and plants. The deeper I dug, the worse it got. A T-valve split the hose one stream to Linda's yard, another to the HOA's main water line, tied to emergency firefighting reserves and community irrigation. This wasn't just stealing, it was sabotage. I needed expertise, so I recalled a white van at Linda's house a week earlier, a plumber hauling piping from her garage. I called his company, Crispin Waterworks, pretending to need a pressure check. The technician confirmed Linda had installed a private bypass system months ago, insisting on tapping the closest HOA source for better flow. His job sheet listed her address and 2 cryptic connection points: TJ Joint, Sector G, and Return Line, South Trail Community Infrastructure, not residential. That night, I cross-referenced an old HOA water map. The lines I'd uncovered matched the emergency fire reservoir, off-limits to residents. Linda was siphoning protected water, topping off her supply with my tank when hers ran low. Sarah, initially skeptical of my sleuthing, was stunned when I showed her the evidence. "She's robbing the whole block," she whispered. I nodded. "And no one knows it." The next day, I jogged through the HOA park, spotting a too-perfect patch of grass near the community garden. A painted rock hid a valve cover, definitely not city work. I snapped a photo. At the park exit, Linda, in a garish pink hat, asked about my funky tank with a smile that screamed guilt. Then she said, "It's nice when neighbors share, don't you think? Sometimes we need to let go." Her words hung like a veiled confession, daring me to act. I compiled everything: footage, photos, plumber's testimony, maps OD, and encrypted it on 2 cloud drives under a fake name. Digging into HOA financials, I found Linda's budget requests for irrigation upgrades started just before my tank issues, funneling thousands to unlicensed contractors. I shared my findings with Tom, a respected neighbor with city connections. He stared at the evidence, muttering, "This is fraud." We agreed to expose her at the HOA meeting in 2 days. The meeting was electric, the clubhouse packed with frustrated residents grumbling about water bills and failing sprinklers. Linda opened with her usual sanctimonious speech, oblivious to the storm brewing. Tom requested agenda time for urgent infrastructure concerns, and despite Linda's attempt to dismiss him, the board president, Ed, approved. I stepped forward, USB drive in hand, heart racing. The projector lit up with a still of Linda, bathrobe-clad, at my tank. Laughter erupted. I laid out the timeline: the draining tank, the cameras, the buried hose. Gasps filled the room as I showed the trench's split pipe, then played the video Linda, sneaking in the dark, a suburban bandit. She tried to interrupt, but Ed silenced her. I presented the plumber's job sheet, the hidden garden valve, and budget discrepancies, culminating in a map overlay showing her taps into the emergency line. Silence fell, then chaos. Neighbors stood, sharing stories: contaminated hose water sickening a child, irrigation failures during a heat wave, compromised fire access. Linda's excuses, doctored footage, a raccoon trap experiment, were laughed off. Ed announced her suspension and an audit, triggering applause as Linda stormed out, toppling a lemonade pitcher and screaming about ungrateful neighbors. The city found 4 tap points to Linda's property, including one under a fake utility box and another in her old sandbox, complete with a pressure booster. Her setup had endangered the fire reserve, a public safety violation. Citations piled up, and her water was cut off. Her house went dark, social media vanished, and rumors swirled of legal battles or flight to Nevada. The neighborhood Healed Me tank stayed full, and residents thanked me for exposing the truth. City crews uncovered 6 more illegal junctions, all tied to Linda, some risking contamination of the public supply. A cease and desist notice hit her door, and a hidden manifold in her yard revealed she'd controlled water flow remotely, explaining her uncanny knowledge of system failures. The HOA ousted Linda permanently, revoked her voting rights, and audited 2 years of expenses, uncovering her embezzlement. The community shifted. Neighbors chatted openly, organized block parties, and held a hydration celebration, with sprinklers and a new fountain dedicated to the neighbors who noticed. A local news segment, Suburban Water Heist, went viral, spawning memes and cementing Linda's infamy. Her house sat empty, assets frozen amid charges for infrastructure tampering and fund misappropriation. I declined an HOA role, pushing for a rotating committee to prevent future tyrants. My tank got a blue repaint and a mural, a knotted hose with "Don't tap what you can't handle." The neighborhood, once stifled, breathed freely, united by a scandal that proved no one, not even a clipboard-wielding HOA queen, could outrun the truth.